when I'm human, and I'm gonna blow my horn till the cows come home and everyone's gonna bow down to me. Hey guys, how you doing? It's Michael Leon Woolley, the voice of Louis the Alligator from the Disney movie The Princess and the Frog, and you're listening to the Magic Our Way podcast with Kevin, Danny, Eli, and Rachel.
Jumbo, everyone.
Harambe.
And welcome to another edition of
The Magic Our Way.
Magic Our Way.
Magic Our Way.
Magic Our Way.
The Magic Our Way podcast.
They are truly magical and whatnot.
Asante Sana, everyone. You're listening to the Magic Our Way podcast from New Orleans, Louisiana. And on this show, we invite you to feel the libations.
Feel it, feel it.
We are artistic buffs and not artistic cream puffs. This is a show in which every opinion is welcome. MagicOurWay.com is where you can find us. For this show, we discuss week 1 of the cast member previews for Tiana's Bayou adventure and all the things that happened since then. Hey, look, this is your typical polished practice Pixie Dust and Disney podcast. No way. We are not in the parks every day, letting you know that Auli'i Carvalho, voice of Moana, visited Journey of Water for the first time.
Oh, wow. That's nice. I
nice.
would like to have known that, though.
That would have been nice to know.
And I'm glad to know it now.
Yes.
And know it's half the battle.
And,
and we're just here to drink and talk some Disney and talk about all the drama on the Bayou.
Yeah. And you listeners have the easy part. All you got to do is to listen up to what we think up while we drink up.
My name is Kevin.
And I'm Danny.
I'm Eli.
I'm Rachel.
And look, the easiest way to support us is to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and or wherever you access our show. Also, be sure to like and subscribe, as well as turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode of the Magic Our Way podcast. Also, book a vacation with Rachel to go see Tiana's Bayou adventure. Oh, somebody's calling her right now.
Is that Wayne Gray already?
Someone's calling me right now.
Somebody's calling for a trip. That's awesome. Thank you, Mohican. So anyway, we'll let Rachel book that vacation, and enough of our jibber jabber. Let's go talk more about Tiana's Bayou adventure. Here we are in the hub, the main topic segment of our show, and as I mentioned at the very top, we are talking about all the fallout, all the reactions, all the things that have happened in the first week that it was open to more than just Imagineers.
Yes.
It's not really public, but it was definitely open to cast members and cast members' friends, which I guess is pretty much a lot of the public.
Yes.
a lot of the influencers and stuff. Because you're starting to see a lot of videos, a lot of honest reviews of the attraction and whatnot.
Yeah, my agency owner and one of my colleagues is actually there right now.
Oh, really?
Whoa. Interesting.
They were invited to a preview event.
They didn't invite you?
No. Well, I have to work.
Just like Iron Man. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I have that pesky day job, you know?
Dang.
Plus, they're not going to let their prize travel agent be all in Disney having fun when she could be booking trips back at the office.
This
right.
is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
But yeah, so they're there right now. They have not ridden it yet. But they're like I think they're standing in line right now.
I thought the cast member previews was over for the week.
I guess no one told them.
Yeah.
This is different. This is the media. This is like a media travel agent preview.
I got you.
Yep. We're recording this on June 9th on a Sunday, so that's a whole new week of people to check it out. So now we got the media people starting this week, and travel agents, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm going to toss it over to Danny because, like I said, there's a lot to talk about.
Yes,
a lot of different things. So what we got, sir?
Well, as you mentioned, Tiana's Bayou Adventure was recently in cast member previews. And since the previews began, the ride experienced all kinds of technical difficulties. It's gone down repeatedly. The animatronics weren't working. Sensors were tripping. Evacuations were occurring.
Sensors were tripping?
Sensors were tripping, man.
Whoa, crazy.
I hate when no sensors trip.
Tripping, man.
Man, I tell you what, this
tripping.
takes me back to the days of Test Track when it first opened. I remember that. Took a whole year to iron it out.
Oh, wow.
And then some.
But they did it.
They did do it eventually.
If you head over to allears.net, there's a story by Quincy Stafford, which I thought was pretty funny, chronicling her attempts to ride it. Because she spent I want to say 2 days and a cumulative 7 hours waiting in line trying to ride it. And it just kept breaking down and people getting evacuated. And she never got to ride it.
Oh.
And so I thought that was kind of humorous.
Poor thing.
But now that the first round of cast member previews for Tiana's Bayou Adventure has ended, and the attraction is getting a much needed break before now we're doing media. I didn't realize this has already started. The media previews have now begun.
Yeah.
People all week long have been discussing all the issues the attraction has had during this past week's testing. And many have been taking Disney to task for not putting enough money into the redo, not thinking things through properly, or taking into account the environment in which these animatronics would have to perform in, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought we should take the time to give our thoughts on the issues that this attraction has faced in its first opening week.
Man, it's so crazy that this happens like in an election year.
Oh, wow.
It's like people have just taken it to there's two different sides and just attacking it.
They're already on edge.
Yeah, I'm just like, come on, y'all, really? I know y'all like us. We haven't even written it yet, but at least we're looking at both sides of the thing.
Exactly.
There's a healthy balance, but damn, guys.
Yeah, Eli pointed this out before we got in the air. He's like, on Inside the Magic, they had an article that said, "I told you so."
Yes.
Splash Mountain fans gloat over the downfall of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and it hasn't even opened yet.
Right.
The downfall.
The downfall. That
Down the deluge.
It's over. And when it comes to Disney websites, Inside the Magic is the bastion of integrity.
Yeah. They are
Bastion
reputable.
of
Just
integrity.
great journalism being done over there.
Poor Ricky. I'm so sorry, Ricky.
Yeah, how the mighty have fallen. Anyway.
You could have sold it to us. No, just kidding.
Look, from the beginning, we've questioned a lot about this attraction, the swamp on the mountain, the stupidness of the salt dome, the motivation behind even changing the theming. And I might not like what they did or how they twisted our culture to jam a square peg into a round hole, but rooting for something to fail because you don't agree with it, that just seems like a bridge too far for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
that's what I meant by like election year. Just
Yes.
like, come on, man.
It's just too much tribalism. It's people just picking sides. Like, if you're a true Disney fan, okay, you might have some critiques about it, and some of these critiques are going to be legit, but experience it, look at it, critique it for what it is. The idea to critique a ride that's not working properly in its opening week, that just seems like, you're just reveling in your own righteousness.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because name me one attraction that hasn't done that.
Exactly.
I mean, I talked about Test Track because before this, I remember Test Track when it first opened was the most egregious one to be like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And that's understandable because that was a pretty advanced ride system that they tried to implement. So yeah, it took a little while, but it went through the same things. Now the argument could be made, hey, wait, this ride system's been in place. It's been working for years and years and years. So why is there having issues?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I mean, you still got timing things and computer things. I mean, they probably upgraded the technology to a bit. And so just like their IT system, if you're ever trying to access the internet or just trying to get your Genie Plus stuff, it's not always reliable.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's fair for them to judge it so early when it's not supposed to be released to the public for another 20 some odd days. And they got the sneak preview. We didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I would also figure, though, it's also summertime. If I had to stand somewhere for like a series of hours and it was like, oh, well, the head fell off, and I might just naturally be mad because I would have such high expectations for this thing because it's supposed to be a game changer. When it doesn't live up to that, while I've been out in the heat going through humidity and stuff, I might be slightly perturbed.
That's a good point. Now that you say that, I can see that. Yeah, 7 hours in line in the summer heat might make me a little irritated.
Yeah, so maybe they need to start doing these nice private releases, during the cooler time. Maybe it won't be so hostile, if you will. But they also gonna have to have bugs and things worked out. Be like, you talk about like rides breaking. I think like Rock and Roller Coaster for me. I tried to get on that thing for 3 or 4 times every time. Years.
Yeah.
And I think like I was finally like into my 40s by the time I got to ride it. So I know these things break, but they're just trying to knock out the kinks. I want to hope and think,
Well, they're doing testing. Yeah. Like any programmers, things are going to break. Hopefully you fix it. You fix it, Felix it or something or whatever.
Yeah. They're almost there. They're almost there.
See what you did there. Rachel, your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little premature for us to be so heated.
Yes.
Yes.
But I am disappointed it's been down so much. Like, that is concerning. Obviously, it's nobody's. Well, I don't know if it's not our business, but Disney's not telling us why it's been down. And so we don't really know if this is something that's like easily fixable or if this is just like, new system bugs or whatever. So I'm hoping that it's something that's easy to fix and it won't be like this all the time. But yeah, that is concerning that it's been down so much.
We haven't heard anything about any logs syncing. That's at least good.
That's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's all a little premature. And most people who are saying all this stuff have not ridden it.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like, I don't know if you really can have like that passionate of a position about it if you haven't physically been on the attraction yet. Like, I think it's okay to have, like we had our opinions based on the POV last week. And that's fine. We just were talking about how we think it will be, how we're expecting or, reactions to what we're seeing in the POV. But we all acknowledged like it might be completely different when we get there and we might feel differently. I feel like people are forgetting that part. They're pretending like they've already written it in their minds and they have this opinion and they've already decided it's whatever. And I think that is a mistake.
Yeah, I believe that one has to reserve full judgment until you've personally experienced it. Now, look, I find it hard to believe that I'm going to encounter anything when riding it that will make up for the triteness of the story or the dead spaces or the animatronics that instead of really doing anything are just kind of waving their arms, just standing there waiting for you to trip their sensors so that way they can activate. However, judging the functionality of it, that and the durability of the animatronics, that's the part of it that I have a problem with. I mean, after only 1 week of early previews, weeks before it's even scheduled to open, it just comes across as people just looking for any reason to celebrate bad news about this ride.
Yeah. I know we mentioned last week about the whole animatronic thing, and then people started saying the exact same thing that we were saying last week. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like, yeah, well, maybe that's part of the issue is that the timing's just off with everything. And so who knows? There's even as though like when you first see Tiana, you're going up that little hill. There's like little food, that wall that has food. I wonder if that's permanent or if that's going away at some point.
I was wondering that myself because that looked kind of
out of place. Huh?
Yeah. I will say this though, to Rachel's point, the one thing that does have me kind of concerned is the use of those highly advanced animatronics in that moist, humid environment.
And that's
And that was a concern going into this, and that's still a concern now. But yeah, it's just way too early to call. But that is something that I'm curious about. I think the ride system itself will be fine.
I think that's fair though. And the behind the scene parts of that, I'm sure, since it has to run all that water and stuff through. Like I remember when I used to work at the zoo, specifically the aquarium, I always had to deal with phone issues on the back end because all of the water, the salt water, and all that other stuff kept eroding all wires and everything. So I was like, man, the aquarium is a nice place to visit, but I'm tired of patching these cables back here. So yeah, if they have that kind of stuff back there and it's not enclosed properly, you could definitely see a lot more stuff breaking down behind the scenes. Besides the animatronics, whatever the stuff they have running back there could be a problem.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like there's going to be a big push of the positive people versus the not so positive people. And it's just going to be a clashing all the way up until the 28th.
But here's the thing. To me, neither are true Disney fans. You know, you have the positive people that refuse to see any badness, any critiquing doesn't mean that you hate something. It just means that you think something could have been done better. And looking to celebrate something failing, it just means you're not you're loyal to an opinion. You're not rooting for the success of this park. I didn't want to see Tiana's Bayou Adventure wedged into Splash Mountain, but once I knew it was coming, okay, you want it to be the best it can possibly be. I mean, to me, what I've seen thus far ain't it. But again, this is way too early to call this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just watching some of the videos, I could tell you, this maybe some updates from like the last week, but I listened to Tiana's song all week and it's grown on me. I was like, I dig it.
Okay, then.
So
all right.
So the music,
positive.
The one that's like The Spice Is You, that one?
Yeah, the name of the song is Special Spice. So I like it. I dig it. I dig it. So the entire, I'm just listening to a lot of the people's recordings and stuff. I'm digging the music. The music in the queue, the music throughout the ride. A lot of fun. Takes me to New Orleans. I still have a slight issue with the ending song, only because I did notice that they play the entire thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So
we were wondering if they'd just play the hook, but you're saying it's the whole
whole thing. And the reason why I could tell that is because, or unless nobody's paying attention to it, in one of the videos, you hear the hook, but then also right after that, you hear the bridge part, which is like, a totally different section that sounds different than the rest of the song. And so I'm like, oh, okay, that tells me they're playing the entire loop. So hopefully, if maybe there's a log jam through there to where people get to hear the thing enough. But I got to think in like slower months, it's, I mean, people are going to hear bits and pieces of that song and they may not walk away singing it because they never really heard the hook.
Right.
And the hook's pretty cool. I dig the hook. I like the music. I like the song, but it doesn't sound like they're editing it to where, you get it in your head, like Runaway, or Zippity or anything of those things.
No.
Yeah.
Again, I've heard it again since we talked about it last time, and I stand by the fact I think it's a fine song.
Yeah, it's a fine song.
Yes. Is it going to be Zippity Doo Dah? No. Is it going to be one of those iconic songs that No, you're right. But I think it works.
Yeah, I think it works. I have no issues with it. I saw people complaining about it. I'm like, it's a really good. It's a good song.
Yeah.
In fact, the music, the entire soundtrack going through that traction from, at least from what I could tell through the audio is pretty cool. I dig it.
Again, and this is the problem. This is why we were on this from the get-go. It's going to get critiqued because what are you comparing it to? Zippity Doo Dah.
Right.
How are you going to win that? You can't. And you kind of have to dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk about was the displeasure that a lot of us fans, myself included, had with Dr. Facilier not being included on this ride. And clearly this was a purposeful decision. Well, looking around, I found a couple of people who have offered a explanation for why Dr. Facilier is not used on this ride. And so I wanted to talk to y'all about this a bit and see what you think, see if there's some credence to be lent to this information.
If it holds water?
Yeah, if it holds water.
Nice pun. I like the pun.
So the first place I've seen this story reported is by a former Twitter X user now named Disney Dan Becker. Someone asked why Dr. Facilier wasn't included in the attraction. He stated, there has been a company-wide mandate to turn away from religious iconography from tiki to voodoo. It's just not what they want to be associated with now. It's why all your new Trader Sam's mugs are IP themed and the new Polynesian hotel is Moana. That was his explanation of things. Now, do we want to stop here and comment on just what Disney Dan here said, or do we want to hear one more?
Do the one more.
Let's do the one more. Let's hear. Yeah.
So again, this came from an ex-user named Dre, and he stated, Dr. Facilier was never considered by WDI for use in the attraction due to his association with voodoo and Carmen Smith's insistence that any depictions of it would be culturally insensitive. This is why Mama Odie was changed from a quote-unquote voodoo queen to a quote-unquote Bayou fairy godmother, which is how they described her in the literature. That park place also discussed this rumor as well and seemed to lend credence to that this is the reason why Dr. Facilier was left out. So I thought I'd ask you guys, do y'all buy into this? Is this the reason? I mean, y'all sign more Disney Dan, Dre? Do y'all think they're both full of it? What do y'all think about this?
The first thing about like trying to get away from voodoo and tiki as stereotypes, like stereotypes of voodoo and tiki.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a legitimate concern for the company. I can understand why they would be trying to avoid that. But what sticks out to me is that I just sailed on the Disney Wonder, the cruise ship, a couple years ago. So this would have been after the re-theme of Splash Mountain and all of that effort by the company to kind of move away from some of these things. And there's the bar on the Wonder had just been re-themed in dry dock to a Dr. Facilier bar.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah, the whole thing's themed to him. So I feel like if they are stepping away, it would be weird for them to have done that too. You know what I mean? Around the same time period.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
I'm wondering, I'm just throwing this out there, because I was just researching some things just now, and I saw that Voodoo Donut is having trouble trying to get into New Orleans.
Voodoo Donut.
Have you heard Voodoo Donuts out of Portland? They do like the crazy themed donuts, and they got all kind of. It's like it's like a social media or media nationwide thing. Voodoo Donuts, right?
Okay.
So they're having trouble. Yeah.
They have them at Universal.
They have them at Universal, yeah, but they're having trouble getting to New Orleans because of the voodoo people here are pushing back on it. And so I'm just like, that's interesting. I don't know if it's the entire religious thing that maybe Disney's avoiding, but part of me thinks like, would you want to piss off a voodoo? I mean, we're from here. We're from New Orleans.
Yeah.
We know what this thing's all about. I don't know if I get it wrong in my attraction. I don't want anybody sticking pins or in a doll of me somewhere. I don't know. I rather not just, I don't. They don't even know what a gree bag is down there in Florida. So to even protect their asses down there. So it's like maybe voodoo they're trying to just avoid because of that. Because the voodoo donut pushback happened all last year. Apparently it was a whole rigmarole and whatnot. And they're still not here. They're still not in New Orleans. But I'm wondering if they saw that and just like, maybe we shouldn't piss these people off.
I mean, that's a little rough with a donut and the ride, but I would say I don't buy it. The only reason why I say I don't buy it is because just like with Splash Mountain, Uncle Remus, he didn't get his rep. Now Dr. Facilier can't get his rep. My brothers can't get a rep.
That's a good point.
On the ride. The other thing is, how do we just do a show about Bob Iger talking about how creative the staff is and what stories they bring and how much money that has, and then how it's supposed to translate to the park. And this is a story that they made, right? This is a story they made. This is what they brought to the ride. How are you just going to be like, now we're just cherry picking our narrative? I don't think that would be a case I could buy, because if that's the point, then look, Disney just from here on out, just make everything as just bland as you possibly can. Because the race thing was one thing. When they were trying to talk about being woke, that's something else. But yeah, religion is a completely different subject. If they don't want to deal with that, take this right out again and then put something else in it. But that is a very integral part of the story.
No, yeah.
Yes. No, I agree. I don't see the religious iconography element that they're discussing. I think that sounds a little odd, considering they just did a very successful Disney Plus series called Percy Jackson, which deals a lot with gods.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah.
Star Wars uses the Force that is highly religious in concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Indiana Jones is Raiders of the Lost Ark, Holy Grail. Hell, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, we go to hell.
Yeah.
True.
The Tiki Room. I mean, what? So that's going now too?
No, probably not.
I don't think it is. No. And I really find it hard to believe that this is why the new Trader Sam's mugs are IP themed and the new Polynesian hotels Moana. No, they're doing this because they're into IP, not because they think that they need to wipe out religious iconography or whatever. I just don't buy that as being it. So I think the first report
does not hold water.
Yeah, it does not hold water.
No,
water.
It doesn't.
No water.
The defense is wrong.
Are you sure?
Now, I might be able to buy that Carmen Smith thought it would be a cultural, cultural stereotyping.
Yeah.
If the story used voodoo. It has to be something, and that sounds as good as anything. And judging by how Disney has done things lately, that seems to be fitting with how they would be thinking. I just find that to be highly stupid, because they're not worried about offending us New Orleanians when it comes to putting a mountain in the middle of a swamp or having a bayou resting inside of a salt dome, things that never have existed nor never will exist.
Kale and
in New
gumbo.
Orleans. Yes. Things that insults every local's intelligence to hear. But voodoo, which does exist here and has existed here for over a century, now that's problematic? You're worried about offending us with that? I mean, so we've removed one set of problematic characters for another? How fitting is that?
Yeah.
I don't even understand what the problem with voodoo is. It's not like Princess and the Frog treats voodoo as a religion founded on evil. Dr. Facilier engages in it. Madame Odie engages in it. Good and bad, like Jedi and Sith. They use it like the Force. It could be used for good. It could be used for evil. And that is how voodoo is done. It is used for good and it's used for evil.
Yeah.
And if that also is the case, then I guess we can't have any characters who perform witchcraft anymore, because that's just not really how Wiccans perform it. And it's highly insulting that we stereotype witchcraft by having characters like the Sanderson sisters and Maleficent and Ursula. So it just seems so silly, so stupid, so getting out beyond their skis. I just don't know what people are thinking when they go down this road.
I would agree. I mean, look, if they're that worried about it, just get you a chicken and then just cut it up and just, I guess, pour all the stuff around the ride and shake around. I mean, try it. Try the religion if that's the case, and then say, hey, look, we are blessing this ride every time, and maybe that's why it won't break. I don't know.
I mean, I know with the Jungle Cruise and the Trader Sam's thing, which you had mentioned, and the issue isn't necessarily that they're afraid of the religion itself, or like, I think the issue is that a lot of those things are or were designed on stereotypes of those religions and not necessarily like authentic representations of how those things existed in the real world. And so Disney's trying to back away from those stereotypes and back away from misrepresenting what those cultures actually were. And what is a little bit frustrating is in their backing away from it, they're not engaging in learning about those cultures in these particular examples and then representing them correctly. Disney has done that in other cases. So like my understanding of Frozen is in the first movie, the native people of Norway were frustrated with misrepresentation of their culture. And that the show writers actually did a bunch of work with them to better represent native Norwegian people, like indigenous Norwegian people in the second movie. And that's why you get so much of that culture in the second movie, is because Disney did some work with them to be like, okay, I'm sorry, we didn't do the right thing there. Like, let's do this better in the second one and make it a feature. And so I think I wish Disney was doing that with something like a Trader Sam, right? Like the shrunken head thing it's a stereotype. It's a misrepresentation. So like, what would it be? Or like, how could we highlight the culture of, I'm not even sure. Is Trader Sam like an Amazonian native?
Ooh, there was a people, I want to say it was in Papua New Guinea, that were headhunters.
Okay, so Pacific Islands.
That's my remembrance of it, but it's been a while.
But yeah, but like, what would they have had in if they were doing like a shop or I don't know. But it's just a bummer that instead of, trying to figure out how we could do it correctly, we're just getting rid of it. And I think that's part of what's going on with Facilier, or could be what's part of going on with Facilier, is that instead of like looking into how can we authentically represent voodoo culture, they're just like, you know what? Let's just make a story about critters and their cute little musical instrument.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And it is fine. It is fine. But it would be nice if they want to have that piece of it because they want it to be a deeper story, like take the time to correct some of the stereotypes that you represented.
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think there just has to be a fine line somewhere between the triteness of, hey, it's just a story about a bunch of critters who can be offended because it's, suitable enough for a 2-year-old. Yeah. And a documentary. Like, I don't know that I want all my stories to be complete representations of, I think I would have a problem if we can't have Ursula in The Little Mermaid because it's stereotypes people who are into witchcraft. Who consider themselves Wiccans, and like, this is not, I don't want witches portrayed like this, and get rid of that Sanderson Sisters stage show, because that's not how witches really act. I mean, I think at some point in time, it's an entertainment thing, and there's got to be things that are caricatured. I mean, stereotype, yeah, that has a negative connotation to it, but I prefer the word caricatured. It's something that's real, but it's kind of played for
overdone.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the point where it's over the top that you can't take it seriously. That's what I would say. And I think that you need kind of a happy medium, because we saw what happened when we went straight edutainment in Epcot. People didn't like that. So there needs to be a happy middle somewhere is my guesstimation.
Yeah. You know what I would say to me feels like a happy middle? And I say this as somebody who's not part of that culture. So I'm happy to be corrected. But from what I understand, people were happy with the representation of their culture is Moana.
Oh, yeah.
People felt like that's the happy middle. That's like, we're not just getting rid of the culture. We're diving into it. We are making it fun. We're talking about how it meant something to people, how it still means something, and then how it drives this story. It's part of the story. I felt like that was really well done. It's an example of how we can take a culture like that, do some research, and then make it a really cool part of the story instead of like an edutainment thing.
And a really good point there, because they're making a live action Moana. They're making a Moana 2 in Maui, demigod. religious
Yeah.
iconography right there. So there again, that's just does not make that first statement ring true at all.
No.
No.
I think the whole thing with Moana though goes back to Lilo and Stitch and the backlash they got when
Right.
they did that movie. And so when they were going to do Moana and portray those people again, they wanted to make sure that they did it right this time. Because I remember the Polynesian people when Lilo and Stitch came out, they were like, "We all got big thighs, huh?" is that how we do it? I remember
Right.
when that one all went down. It's like, ooh, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like big thighs, but I mean, you know,
Me too.
but obviously, yeah, it wasn't. That's why Moana is now that happy medium because he took the time into it. So maybe if Carmen would say we never took the time to really understand and study voodoo to where we get to that point, like we did with Moana, so we didn't want to portray it poorly.
Right.
I might could accept that answer.
Having said
And
that, oh, go ahead, Rachel.
Well, I was just going to say to you guys, and we haven't ridden the ride yet, but you have seen POV videos.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like they took the time researching like the food culture and the music culture of New Orleans instead. Like that was the time that they put in, was understanding the food and the music of New Orleans. And they put that into the ride instead of spending time on voodoo.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say,
Just say it.
if that's the case, all they want to do is just eat, and which is it's a lot of stuff to eat here. But they said, "Hey, we've got everything we need to know about New Orleans and its culture. And we're already seeing how that's being twisted." But I was going to say, Moana is a good example of how, culture got learned and like a good property came out of it. Coco, I was going to say, it's the same thing.
Oh yeah.
But these are movies. They haven't been made into an attraction yet. I mean, so realistically, this is why I don't buy the other thing this guy is saying, because in an attraction, what's going to happen is if you had Dr. Facilier in there and he's like, ooga booga or whatever, the next thing that happens is you're going to get dropped. You're not having the time to look around and be like, hey, that's wrong. That's not the amount of chickens you're supposed to have. You're supposed to put a curse on somebody. You're worried about getting dropped 50 feet. So again, I think for a movie, yes, study as much of it as you can, get as much of the dialogue as you can, as much of the culture as you can, because that's a hour and a half film. But for an attraction, really, you can just hit the high points of that. And I think if these people are that afraid to do that, if that is true, then you're not going to have a good Coco ride. You're not going to have a good Moana ride, because now they're going to say, well, it was a good thing we played it safe with all cultures. We'll just stick to this in the movies, but the ride where you could really enjoy the experience, would really be there, we'll just give you 35% of that experience. And that's just ripping off the consumer, as far as I'm concerned with that. That's not what you paid for.
Well, what I was thinking is like, when it comes to the culture, sometimes you need to have conversations with people within that culture to find out what would be a no-no and what would be fine. And like when it comes to the concept of voodoo, we've already had an arena football team called the Voodoo. We just last year, the Pelicans had a voodoo jersey, voodoo shoes that Zion Williamson put out and stuff like that. I mean, voodoo is something that we can play around with a little bit over here. And we're kind of fine with that. It's other people who might not be. That would be the one thing I would say. The other thing I was wondering about, because Rachel was talking about they did research into music. There was one thing that when I listened to it a second time through, was there any jazz in that?
What the
In all the music that we heard played, do you remember there being any jazz? I remember Zydeco.
Zydeco was in there. They had the Dr. John type New Orleans type sound. Almost a second line kind of groove.
Yeah.
At the very beginning. They had some Dixieland up in during the Q area. So they had that playing a lot.
Okay.
But that's mostly in the Q area though. I didn't going through the attraction was a lot of the movie stuff.
Okay.
So whatever the styles they pulled into that, which I thought the Zydeco thing was kind of cool. I appreciated that. But yeah, no, it's pretty much most of the trad jazz that you get is mostly in the Q area.
Okay.
Because there's like a radio station that's playing as you're walking to your office, and then you hear all the different bands and stuff from here. Actually, they're recorded.
Yeah, I saw stills from the Q. I haven't seen the actual walkthrough of the Q yet.
Yeah.
The office looks cool, I think. Looks like a lot of things to look at and read. The problem is though that you don't know how much time you're going to have in the queue.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer. Like, for example, that Mickey's Runaway Railway in California, they have such a cool queue. There's like so many Easter eggs and like fun things to look at for Runaway Railway in California. And so we purposefully didn't buy Lightning Lane for it. and we went at a time where the wait was posted at 40 minutes. So we would have time to like look at all the stuff. And we got in there and there was no wait. It was like, I don't know why it was posted at 40 minutes. But so we're like trying to look at stuff and people are stopping behind us and getting fresh. And we're like, just keep going. It's fine. We're just here for the queue. Like, just keep going. Anyway, it's just like, it's cool when they take that time and they put it into the queue. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I know, but I don't always have to you can't always enjoy that.
Right.
It's very subtle. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I thought the kitchen was cool, but yeah.
All of it looks cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited to check it out, but I kind of hope I have time to do it.
I can tell you the beignet scene. I don't know if you
I saw the
beignet scene is pretty damn accurate.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, cool. Cool.
I got little twitches when I saw it.
I was
like, ah!
Yeah.
No, I like beignets, but I remember
we know how they're supposed to be cooked. So yeah,
I remember.
I zoomed in on that with my finger. When
I did. I
make sure that's right.
Screenshot it and I zoomed in. I was like, okay, they got everything they need.
Yes. I like the. I think they had the parts where it was like these stills of like her dad in the military
that is
and
cool,
stuff like
yeah.
that. I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool scene there. But yeah, for the most part, going through it, it looks like there's a lot of things to look at. But there was a lot of things that was like, boom, you part of the ride. Watch how this is happening. Nothing stuck out like that. It's just a lot to look at.
Yeah, the setup of the story in that queue was interesting because it's like I don't. Rachel, it sounds like you saw it, but it's like it seems very subtle. As far as like what the actual story is. So it didn't really do much to help me.
Yes.
I'm only mentioning this just because we mentioned it last week, if it would help. I don't know.
You know
Could
what?
be totally different.
We're talking about fan backlash. One of the things that made me laugh the most is the people who are all upset about the signs. Did you see that?
I saw that.
No,
I even responded to somebody on Twitter. They some sign that got taken down and switched out. I'm like, what's the problem?
They're upset. Okay. So I read an article about it. This article spent time like putting side by sides of the different signs from like the Splash Mountain signs to the Bayou Adventure signs. And the Splash Mountain signage was definitely more carefully created. It was like wood carved. It had characters on it. The signs were more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And by signs, I mean like this way to the ride or you're going to get wet. Like that kind of stuff, like actual informational signs.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are upset that these signs don't have the same level of detail.
Damn.
Wow.
Signs.
You see,
That's nitpicky.
that's what I'm talking about.
Come
You're just
on now.
I mean, they can upgrade. They can upgrade that sign after some point.
when you
but
give so much credit, like now everyone's deaf to your criticism when you just criticize everything.
yes.
I mean,
the
they're
boy
not like
problem.
it's not like they just printed them out on their like DOS computer and stuck them on the wall. Like they're still professionally created signs.
Yeah.
They have the information on them. They are themed to the ride. They're just not carved out of wood like the old ones were. Anyway, it's just silly.
They can't win. If you're Disney at this point, you can't win. You say, okay, we're going to take this ride down, and everybody's like, when you going to put up the new one? Okay, well, we're working on it. Well, hurry up. Okay, fine. We got it up. What do you think? Those signs suck. What are you doing?
I heard people complaining about the use of the screens. And don't get me wrong, when they overuse the screens, that ticks me off. But the use of the fireflies?
Oh, yeah. That's
Perfect. Fine.
thought it
That's
was
great. Like it makes the Bayou scene more expansive than what it would otherwise. I like the use of the background screens.
Yeah.
I don't like when the characters are now interacting with you through a screen. Yeah, I don't care for that particularly, but I thought the use of the screens was perfect. In fact, that's something that I knew that they were going to do because that's what they've been doing more lately. I mean, if you rode Alice in Wonderland over in Disneyland and the use of that enhanced the ride so much so. So those screens work well. I mean, I'm trying to think like right now, objectively, what I could say that they do that this ride does better than Splash Mountain. I don't know if I can really answer that without riding it.
fairly.
Yeah, fairly. But the screens I would put up there as a background feature that I think that would have worked well in Splash Mountain if they would have overhauled that and redone it and improved on it. I bet you they would have used the screens in the background to help enhance the story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the screens are fine, and we're not talking about Universal level screen usage.
No,
of which Universal uses an egregious amount of screens in their attractions.
Yeah.
I mean, this is subtle, like Danny was saying, background stuff, which I thought was great. I mean, there's even a scene where it's like, I guess I can't remember if it's when you're shrunk down. I guess it is. with like the fireflies are passing behind the bottle.
Yes.
And then you see one of the fireflies kind of look at you, just like, hey,
Yeah.
through the bottle. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
I dig that effect. You know, and they keep marching along. So that I don't mind so much.
Right.
That I don't mind so much. Although the large Tiana, when you're strong,
Yes.
kind of freaks me out a little bit.
I didn't like that.
yeah,
I didn't care for Madame Odie, the screen usage.
Yeah.
When she says, oh, you got to make you big again or something like that.
She could have been, yeah.
Make I didn't care for that, but I don't care for it. I'm not going to rail against it. You know, it's there are some people that have taken this way too far.
Yeah, that's too much.
Way too far. At the end of the day, again, you should not be rooting for Disney to fail. If you're a true Disney fan, you should not be rooting for your own opinion at the expense of the company doing well. Like there's a lot of people who ask us, like, when are you going to be doing that show again, whether or not Disney's bulletproof? Because we're starting to wonder now. And I still, to this day, think that Disney is bulletproof with the amount of properties and the amount of people that are working over there that could make something truly special. I just think they have bad leadership right now.
Yeah, it would be nice if Disney made all of these different things to where it brought all people together in real life, and they would walk up to a person like, oh my God, I didn't know your life was like that until I rode that ride or saw that cartoon. But in reality, that's not what happens. So again, to go after them for making a narrative or to create fictional characters, I think that's just messed up. If people want to go and rally for something, again, go in the real world. Go talk to somebody or go on the message board if you want to and ask them questions and then feel better about having that level of knowledge. But this is just for entertainment. And that's it. And there is no, again, unless you tell me different, I don't think their magic extends past the park to just have everybody just say, hey, you know what? We got peace until they fix this ride, but until then, it's all anarchy in the real world everywhere. That's not how it works.
I think that's what the issue is that, they people turn to these media things for their information and don't read.
Yeah.
They just don't read.
It's nice to have a symbol
and get information.
But, dig in there. You learn. There's somebody out there that's close by you, whoever these revelers are, that you can say, hey, man, what did you think about this? And then you can get your different opinion. And then maybe your former friend, and y'all book a trip with Rachel and go and hang out and experience that ride together.
Yeah, don't take your favorite TikToker's word like it's gospel. Like, this is exactly how it is.
Oh, you can't trust the TikTok because that stuff be having a slant with the filter and stuff.
Just like what Tiana said, just dig a little deeper, do some research, do some reading. You might actually learn something.
Yeah, that's what Gumbo is, right? Mixture of different things.
Also, like, I appreciate the fan, like, obviously, like, I'm a part of the fan community. I love the Disney fan community. It's part of what makes me love the trips and the whole thing. Like, it's all great. I watch Disney vloggers on YouTube. Like, I'm a part of all of that. But I also I feel like people lose sight of the fact that, like, rides are not meant to be on TV. And like,
Amen.
Good
like,
point.
It's meant to be something that you ride for 10 to 15 minutes with your family on vacation. And it's meant to give you something to talk about, an experience to enjoy, challenge your kids to face a fear for going down that big hill.
Right.
Like, that's what it's intended for. And so for people to, like, have these videos and scrutinize every moment, and it's just like, you're just losing. That's not what it was intended for.
Right.
Like, yeah, it doesn't work on YouTube because it's not meant to work on YouTube, because it's meant to be me and my kids riding and laughing together, getting off, and then spending too much money on a plush.
Right.
That's a great point, Rachel.
Yes.
And just to add to this, for people who are expecting a 3-minute long ride or a 5-minute long ride to 100% represent cultural accuracy within the society. I mean, there's a story that comes to mind that Mark Hamill told about Harrison Ford when they were making Star Wars. And there was a scene where they go into the trash compactor and they get out, Luke gets sucked down, they get him out of there, and they get out of the trash compactor and he steps out of the vent and his hair is completely dry. And he goes to Harrison Ford and he's like, wait a minute. Should my hair be wet? Because I just got out of the trash compactor, got sucked down. Shouldn't my hair still be wet? And Harrison Ford said, kid, this is a movie about space magic. If people are looking at your hair, we're in trouble.
Yes.
And that's what this makes me think of.
Yes.
If you're paying attention to all, you're looking at the wrong dang thing. It's supposed to be something that can entertain you quickly. It shouldn't have to be 1,000% accurate. It's just a piece of entertainment.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And whoever feels that they are not getting what full representation or full whatever they want out of the aesthetic of the ride, well,
National Geographic does a lot of great documentaries.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about my own culture that I'm like, hey, look, you know what? That was interesting to see in this avenue, but no, I wouldn't want to ride that.
Right.
You know, so yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, it's a ride. Instead of entertain you, let it entertain you. You can't do anything else with that. You're not a Disney executive. And if you force the Disney executives to say, oh, we don't want any sort of pushback at all, you're just going to have a bunch of bland rides and then everyone is just going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Should be milquetoast.
Yeah. You don't want that.
Living with the Land still exists, guys. It's a great, you learn a lot, accurate depiction of farming and the way hydroponics
Yes.
is a little bit for everybody.
That was done well.
Fish farming. Yeah.
Fish farm.
The fish were represented well in that way.
And they were diverse.
Yes.
They are diverse.
Diverse fish.
But it's just a serious thing to really bring out. Yeah, I just hate to hear that for anybody as an artist that you make something. I've told this story 20 million times where I made the geisha book and a lady once told me, why don't you have this character be African American? I'm like, because I just drew it. I just drew it. I wanted to draw it. Like, is that going to change you from buying the book? No. Well, just enjoy it. Like, man, like, you can't please everyone, but
No,
yeah, you know, it's just like, come on.
You gotta go
let's
crazy trying to.
pick our spots. That's all.
That would be the end of artistry.
Yeah, completely.
Well, awesome, Danny. that was thank you for taking us through that discussion, because that was a lot of fun just to kind of chat and see and as we've said, we're going to reserve our full judgment until we actually get a chance to ride it unbiased. We're not getting any free media tickets or nothing. We're going to pay our own way and eventually get down there to see it on our own, stand in line with all the plebeians.
Oh, yes.
And suffer through it or whatever else and catch a first-hand attraction. So no bias there. At least that's our hope. And we're curious to know what you guys think after week one. It sounds like with the media stuff and everything's just going to keep ramping up until the 28th when it finally opens up. So
I know. I keep telling myself that too. They're like, it's not even open till the 28th of June.
Yeah, we got 2 more weeks.
Wow. This is previews. It's supposed to be a little rocky.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So let's see what happens. I'm curious to know what you guys think. If you have any opinions, it's always welcome on this show. So don't be afraid to shoot it out there, even if you think we're completely wrong, or maybe if you think we're completely right, or maybe if there's something that we missed. We definitely want to hear from you. We're about to tell you how to get in touch with us and tell those things in just a little bit. Well, y'all, we hope you enjoyed that discussion. And look, if you want to learn more about us, go to magicourway.com. There you'll find our social media links, past episodes, and more. Also, if you want to get in touch with us, like I said, to share any or all opinions you have about this, you can do so through the following ways. First of all, shoot us an email at show@magicourway.com, or call or send us a text message. Did say text us at 1-815-MOWEEKEND. That is 1-815
MOWEEKEND
669-4226. And of course, we have a couple people outside of the podcast. First of all, we got Eli just listening to comics. Eli, what you got?
Yes, sir. When you guys out there on the internet, you always make a pit stop to www.ivorycomics.com, where you see all the work that I've done, fully colored pages. The only ad form is for the Magic Our Way podcast. That work includes Project Geisha, Savages, and The Bayou Be Damned. Also on the website, you can find blogs and interview posts, and of course, a link to this podcast, so you never miss a beat, you never miss an episode, you never miss who said what about what, ride with. So as always, take the time to visit ivorycomics.com. Thank you on that. Social media, I'm right there. Facebook, Eli H. Ivory. As long as you're a real person, it's awesome to meet you. Shake your hand every time. But if you're a bot, I do not need to greet you. Things is going good for me. Keep tired of these bots. Just keep sending me stuff like, hey, would you like your credit improved by going to, Nigeria and talking to Prince Hakeem? And like, no, come on now. Don't do me like that. We better than that, aren't we, Mr. Bot? So no bots. But yes, Eli and Jive is where you can find me on Facebook. Also on Facebook, there's a Project Geisha fan page, so facebook.com/Project Geisha. Instagram, right there, posting up the hearts and the likes and all those good stories. EIV504 is where you'll find me there. And of course, on X, I can be found at Hancock 10166. So yes, if you appreciate the madness, just bringing me the gladness. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was showing Eli yesterday where Emma Watson wants to be my Facebook friend.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
you.
that happened.
Oh,
Yes,
that's nice.
Yeah.
My sister went to college with her.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Well, maybe that's why she wants to be my friend so terribly.
There you
Maybe
go.
that's
She wants to get on the show.
Yes.
She wants to talk about Epic Universe.
Yes. Well, she's more than welcome to come on. I haven't accepted that friend
Yeah.
request yet, though.
Oh, that's probably the safest, yeah.
See where it takes you.
And speaking of Epic
Yeah.
Universe, you can book a vacation through Rachel, as we talked about. Rachel, can they still book vacations to get in there for the 28th for the opening of this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's short notice, but yeah, we could totally do that. What's kind of cool is with no pre-book fast passes still, you don't really have to plan ahead as much as you used to have to. So yeah, you could totally still go for the 28th and be there for the opening day. You just need to buy a dated ticket because park reservations are sold out, but as long as you get a dated ticket, no problem. So you can plan that trip and I can help at no additional cost to you. You can get me at Rachel@magicourway.com. That's RACHEL at magicourway.com. You can also find me on social media. I am at the letter R and then the words Family Magic, all one word, R Family Magic, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm hoping to get some new YouTube videos out soon. It's been a while, but I've been busy. So
Yes, you have.
yeah, so I'm hoping to get those out soon. And I would just be so honored to help your travel party book a fantastic vacation, no matter where you want to go, whether it's Disney World, Disneyland to go see Tiana's out there, Epic Universe, which I just saw. They're continuing to hint that it will be earlier in 2025.
2025, dude. I
Yeah.
am so psyched.
That's awesome.
So I'm crossing my fingers to take my family next April. So we'll see. But yeah, so if you're interested in that, I can get you on an interest list. And again, it's no extra cost to book with a travel agent or to book with me. But the benefit is that a little piece of the cost of your vacation, instead of just going to these large corporations, are coming back to support this podcast and this fan community. And it costs you nothing. So we really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing from you and helping you plan a fantastic and memorable trip.
Great. So if you want to access all the info we just mentioned, go to magicourway.com/about us. Also, if you want to elevate your support of the Magic Our Way podcast, go to patreon.com/magicourway. There you'll find 6 awesome tiers to support this show. Any way in which you can support the show is deeply appreciated. The easiest way to support us, and it only costs a minute or so of your time, is to leave a rating and a review in Apple Podcasts and or wherever you access our show, whether it is YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, etc. We also want to thank you for being a loyal listener, and we always love hearing from our listeners. All opinions are always welcome on the Magic Our Way podcast, so make sure you get in touch with us today. So we say Kwaharini. My name is Kevin.
And I'm Danny.
Magic out.
And you are. Bye!